These men are in a race against time. Without this water, their village doesn't have a future. If they don't repair this water tunnel before the winter rains arrive, it will stop flowing and people will leave. Shalala Zarira means little waterfall. The village lies on the edge of the desert in northern Syria. Out here, water is a lifeline, and the village owes its very existence to the discovery, a century ago, of an abandoned Roman water tunnel, known locally as a qanat. Life is very basic here, and many young men leave Little Waterfall to be closer to modern facilities and job opportunities. But Mohammed Musa has spent all his life here and he wants to stay. He does construction jobs in nearby villages to provide for his wife and 6 children. Mohammed's great-grandfather discovered the ancient water tunnel and brought it back to life. Today it's still the main water supply for the village, but once again it has fallen into disrepair. Silt chokes the waterway and 2 air shafts are blocked with stones and sand. Mohammed is convinced that if the tunnel is not renovated soon, living in the village will become much more difficult.
When
our water tunnel dries up, those who want will leave the village, or they will dig a storage tank and buy water from outside. But that is very expensive for us. In my case, I don't use much water. So why should I pay for it? 500 Syrian liras every month. That's a shame.
Cleaning the tunnel requires special tools and organisation, but personal clashes between village elders have been preventing cooperation in the village. Mohammed manages to bring the village elders together and explains his plan to unblock the tunnel and air shafts.
You put 2 iron legs on each side and an iron bridge in between. You fix the pulley with some strong bolts. You place this in the middle above the air shaft. And when we want to pull up the stones and sand, it will do it for you. Just as you like.
The elders agree to his ambitious plan, but warn that he's going to need as much help as he can get. Mohammed secures support for tools and scientific backup, and he gathers a group of villagers who are willing to provide the manpower. They have no idea what challenges they will encounter, but they know that they must complete the work before the rains arrive. Otherwise, the village will lose out on its water supply for the next year. It is June. They have just 3 months to repair 600 meters of tunnel clogged with sand and rubble. During the day, the temperature can rise above 45 degrees in the shade. 1,500 years ago, their forebears must have done the same back-breaking work. Qanat tunnels draw groundwater to the surface using only gravity. The tunnel is dug into an area where the groundwater table follows the contours of the hills. Because it relies on gravity, the tunnel can never take more water than can be recharged by rainfall. The tunnel is intersected by ventilation shafts to provide air to the excavators charged with their upkeep. It is these that are blocked in Little Waterfall.
Pull it up! so I can see how strong you guys are.
Whoa!
This one might not make it. This stone is at least a meter wide. Guys, I think the rope is going to be strained.
يلا عطوا مجال للعب الشتاء الجنوب اثنين يا شباب عطوا مجال عطوا خلف الدوق واحد شوت معاه واحد يا محمد لا تشارك.
Managing the water supply is done above ground as much as below. The underground supply only provides for essential household water needs. The surplus recharges a reservoir during the day. At sunset, to avoid any loss through evaporation, the family that has the so-called water day right opens the reservoir. When Muhammad's great-grandfather established the village a century ago, he and his 5 sons built the reservoir for irrigation. Each brother had one water day right. Their descendants inherited the rights. But today, 5 brothers have grown to 122 people in 8 extended families, and the share-out period has gone from 5 to 15 days. Competition between village elders to buy each other's water day right, when families emigrate to the cities, has weakened the garden organization.
Our forefathers were like one hand. Their system prevented children and sheep damaging the trees in the garden. And they grew all kinds of vegetables and even cotton. But those after them didn't keep these rules. The system didn't last.
It's been 4 weeks and the men have reached the bottom of the first shaft. Now they have to keep digging until they reach the original water source. It takes 12 days of digging, but at last they get through to the main tunnel. As well as water, they find something rather unusual. A species of blind cave fish, fully adapted to a world with no light. And now Muhammad has found something else. Bats are unwelcome. Their droppings contaminate the water. To get the bats out, the villagers need to open all the air shafts. But there's still one more to find. They can see it from below, but not from above. Muhammad's father and brother set out to search for the opening above. Syria was part of the Fertile Crescent, the arc of land fed by the Tigris and Euphrates rivers. From the Mesopotamian civilization in modern-day Iraq through to the Romans, farming depended on irrigation. The secret of their success was the development of sustainable water technologies. In Syria, the remnants of these technologies can still be found. . It's believed the qanat technology was invented by the Persians 3,000 years ago. The know-how found out to North Africa, Europe, China and to the Gulf. A research project supported by the Swiss Development Corporation and the United Nations University has found that although water still flows in 90 qanats in Syria, only a third are in constant use. That's only about 5% of the tunnels that functioned when Constantinople ruled. In others, the flow has ceased or become a useless trickle. On a site 300 kilometers further south of Little Waterfall, the tunnel of the Monastery of St. Jacob is drying up. Survivors throughout centuries, the Orthodox sisters may yet be forced to leave if the water stops flowing.
We have no water. You can go and see the spring. Yeah. There is nothing. And we used to have per month, every 20 days, 1,200 meters, cubic meters. Yes. We don't have even 20 or 40 cubic meters per 20 days. Yes. And so we have no water. I don't know if there is a solution other than to dig a well. I don't know. If it will continue like this, it will be a danger for our survival here. Because the unique mean to live was the land. We wanted to live from the land. And without water, I don't know what to do.
Back in Little Waterfall, Mohammed's father has finally found the tunnel air shaft he was looking for above ground. It still has the old Roman casing. Below ground, Mohammed and the other villagers have now reached the main source of the subterranean water supply. It's an 8-meter-long gash in the limestone rock. It's just big enough for one person to crawl in. They have made an encouraging discovery. Not just one, but several natural water sources in a network of tunnels. A tribute to the excavating skills of their ancient forebears. It means there are many water sources that can be opened up to guarantee the supply through the long, dry summer.
The area is about 5 square meters. We returned back here, and then we headed north. We found another tunnel, and went down, and there was another source. I could feel the water pressure. Now, this is a very precise map.
In the garden, the figs are ripe enough to pick. A sure sign the rains will arrive soon. The villagers may only have 4 weeks to clear the remaining debris before rising water levels make the work too dangerous. But now a major setback which may jeopardize the whole undertaking.
All the water goes down like this. There are places like this all over the tunnel. We noticed that the water flow was slowing down. And in the end, we found out that holes like this drain the water away.
There's one obvious solution. Holes have to be plugged. The new comes to the rescue of the old. Modern concrete is Mohammed Musa's solution. After they have repaired the holes, Mohammed checks out the second air shaft. In the middle, large stones and debris are blocking the shaft. The villagers decide to move the tripod.
Take it easy, guys. Easy. This is a very big stone. Don't let it hit the sides. Try to catch it by the iron hooks.
تمام.
The second shaft does not have a proper casing. The villagers need to prepare a base of reinforced concrete and build a stone casing 10 meters high. While this work is going smoothly, elsewhere in the tunnel there's another setback. Little Waterfall's solution to its water problem is an exception. Syria is a fast-changing country where traditional ways are crumbling. Economic development makes heavy demands on fresh water. Relying on gravity, qanat tunnels have natural limits on how much water is drawn to the surface. It is hardly surprising that Syrians prefer diesel-powered pumps over the labour-intensive work needed to keep the qanats flowing. The ancient water tunnels also rely on social organisation, and that's crumbling too with greater mobility. The tunnel vision of previous generations is at risk of being lost, and with it will go a sustainable practice honed over millennia. But there is recognition in some quarters that qanat know-how should not die. 3 tunnels at Demir, near the capital Damascus, provide irrigation water for 7,500 households. One of the tunnels was successfully renovated with financial support from the Swiss Development Cooperation. The local government of Damascus is working together with the farmers to find out what their needs are and how the qanats can supply them. Encouragingly, the farmers want the authorities to back the traditional water technology.
There is a big difference between Roman qanats and modern-day wells. Water from qanats is much preferred than water from pumped wells. It is much cleaner because of its natural filtration. The government has started to issue permits for wells and metering system. It also gives farmers instructions on irrigation methods, especially the dripping method, which saves water.
Back in Little Waterfall, the boulder is still giving problems.
راحت خلاص
يبقى طلع انا مهلك
ما بدك ولا
خلاص ولا مهلي ولا سهري
روح بس شوي شوي ها
جزم يدوخ ها خفافي احسن
روح قول يا ميسر
تزيح هيك تعال.
With the last piece of stone lifted safely out of the way, the race against the winter flooding is nearing its end. Time is running out, and the men work as hard as they can to complete the job. Building the casing is skilled work. It must be resilient enough to withstand the flash floods that can sweep through the valley. Then finally the men reach the outlet of the tunnel that comes out in the village.
أنا قبل كم يوم نزلت مع الشباب هذول وأخذوا صورة عن
I went down with the guys a couple of days ago, and the tunnel looks very good.
ممتاز شغلنا يعني
From the start to the end, our work is excellent. It's very clean, and I am happy. The building of the casing is strong, and we have also put a fence on the shafts. That was a very good job to prevent dirt falling into the tunnel, which means we will always have clean water. It was a good job we did.
Mohammed's persistence has paid off. For him and the other men, it's been a back-breaking 3 months. But it means that Little Waterfall will get the full benefit of the rains during winter. Syria's demand for water is increasing by 150% within the next decades. It is forecast that the Syrian population will increase from 18 million to more than 28 million in 2020. It can't last, and before long, scenes like this will be a distant memory. If nature isn't providing any more water, the only solution for Middle Eastern countries is to use it more wisely. And reviving the qanats may be part of that wisdom. The villagers of Little Waterfall know that tunneling water is the route to survival in the desert. They've relearnt the skills of Roman times and applied a bit of modern know-how to make sure that this village is guaranteed its water supply for years to come.